As a UK investor on the Vanguard platform, there are lots of options when it comes to picking an index fund. Picking the right index funds for you is essential for successful investing. Each fund has its advantages and disadvantages that you need to be aware of. In this video, I'm going to break down every single equity index fund that is on Vanguard's UK platform. Hello everybody and welcome back to iQinvesting with me, Lewis, where we talk about saving, investing and everything in between. If you want to see more stock market related content just like this, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. Quick disclaimer, I am not a qualified investment advisor, I'm just an amateur investor who simply loves saving and investing. Now let's move straight into the content. I'm first going to explain how this index fund overview is going to work. There are 19 equity index funds for a UK investor to buy on the Vanguard platform. To make it clear, I am only focusing on the equity index funds in this video. This means that all of these index funds predominantly hold stocks, not bonds. There are 5 aspects of each fund that we're going to look at that's going to help us compare them. These are: is the fund passive? How many stocks does it hold? What is the ongoing charge or fee? What is the dividend yield? And finally, what is a risk factor? I'll also make sure to specify what each fund aims to track and how they choose their investments. To help compare each of these funds, I'll be breaking down each of these parameters into poor, average or good. We'll use red to denote poor, orange to denote average and green to denote good. For the passive section, a passive fund will receive a good rating, whilst an active fund will receive a poor rating. If you're unsure why I'm rating active funds as poor, make sure to watch my video on index funds for beginners by clicking the card in the top right corner. For the number of stocks that are held in the fund, we know that more stocks equals more diversification, which results in higher risk adjusted returns. So we will say that any fund with less than 300 stocks is poor, between 300 and 1000 is average, and above 1000 is good. Now, onto the ongoing charges, and we know that the lower that these are, the higher our overall returns will be. So ongoing charges above 0.3% will be poor, between 0.15 and 0.3% will be average, and less than 0.15% will be good. Next is the dividend yield, which is the percentage of dividends that will be paid out just for holding the fund. All of Vanguard's equity index funds are cumulative, which means that the dividends will automatically be reinvested. Nevertheless, dividends lower than 1.5% will be poor, between 1.5 and 2.5% will be average, and above 2.5% will be good. And finally, the last parameter is the risk factor, and you can't really rank this in the same way. High risk is not necessarily a good thing, but neither is low risk. It is more of a preference. Each of these funds either have a risk factor of 5 or 6 out of 7, which is determined by Vanguard. To make it clear, I will not be discussing the past performance of the funds, as this is not a factor that you should be considering when picking an index fund. Remember, past performance is not a good indicator of future results. With the comparison system out of the way, let's get straight into looking at each of these funds. I'm going to break each set of funds down into the markets which they represent, just as Vanguard does. The first fund on our list is the FTSE Developed Europe excluding UK Equity Index Fund. This fund invests in large and medium-sized companies across Europe excluding the UK. The fund is passively managed and currently holds 476 stocks. The ongoing charge for the fund is 0.12% and the dividend yield is 1.96%. Finally, the risk factor is 6, and this is because it only invests in European markets, which is considered to be quite concentrated. The second and final European fund is the SRI European Stock Fund. SRI stands for Socially Responsible Investing, which is similar to some of the ESG funds that are also on this list. This means that the index excludes shares of companies that are involved in controversies, non-renewable energy, vice products and weapons. Similarly to the last fund, it invests in large and medium-sized companies across Europe. Unlike the last fund, this includes stocks from the UK. The fund is passively managed and it holds 548 stocks. The ongoing charge for the fund is 0.14%, whilst the dividend yield is 2.41%. Finally, the risk factor of the fund is 5. This is because it holds more stocks than the last fund, and it also holds stocks from the UK, which increases diversification. There are 7 global index funds that are available to invest in with Vanguard in the UK, which is the largest of all of the groups of funds. The first of these funds is the ESG Developed World All Cap Equity Index Fund. As an ESG fund, it only invests in socially responsible companies. The fund invests in large, medium and small-sized companies in developed countries across the world. The fund is passive and it holds a hefty 4,123 stocks. The ongoing charge is 0.2%, whilst the dividend yield is 1.37%. Finally, the risk factor of a fund is 5, which is due to the global diversification. The next fund is the ESG Developed World All Cap Equity Index Fund UK. This fund is almost identical to the last one, but it is basically a UK version. The fund was created more recently, in June of 2020. It also still invests in companies all around the world. It is a passively managed fund and it holds 3,578 stocks. This is around 500 less than the previous fund. The ongoing charge is 0.2%. Whilst the dividend yield has not yet been determined. The risk factor of the fund is 5, which is due to the global diversification. The next fund is the FTSE Developed World Excluding UK Equity Index Fund. This fund invests in large and medium-sized companies from developed countries all around the world, excluding the UK. It is a passively managed fund and holds 2,047 stocks. The ongoing charge is 0.14%, whilst the dividend yield is 1.59%. The risk factor is also 5, due to the global diversification. The next fund is the FTSE Global All Cap Index Fund. This fund invests in large, medium and small sized companies from all around the globe. It is a passively managed fund and it invests in the most stocks out of all of the index funds on this list, at 6,880. The ongoing charge is 0.23%, whilst the dividend yield is 1.59%. The risk factor of the fund is 5, due to the global diversification. The next fund is the Global Equity Fund, which is the first index fund on our list that is actively managed. As you know, in my opinion, actively managed funds aren't preferable, but I'm including them just for completeness. Just don't talk to me if you invest in them. Jokes aside, the fund invests in hand-picked stocks from large, medium and small-sized companies across the world. The fund only invests in 200 stocks and it has an ongoing charge of 0.48%. The dividend yield is the lowest on our list, at 0.86%. Finally, the risk factor of the fund is 5, due to the global diversification. The next fund on our list is the Global Equity Income Fund. This fund is similar to the last, but it only invests in companies which have a high dividend yield. The hand-picked stocks are from large, medium and small-sized companies across the world. The fund is actively managed and holds 134 stocks. The ongoing charge is 0.48%. And the dividend yield is 2.98%. The risk factor of the fund is also 5, due to the global diversification. The last fund in the global section is the Global Small Cap Index Fund. This fund only invests in small companies from all around the world. Small companies are generally more risky than larger ones, so the expected returns can be higher. The fund is passively managed and it holds 4,235 stocks. The ongoing charge is 0.29%. Whilst the dividend yield is 1.3%. The risk factor of the fund is 6, due to the risky nature of small cap stocks. There are 4 funds to invest in when it comes to investing in the UK markets. The passive funds in this list generally have low ongoing charges because they are UK based funds, so we don't have to pay much to access them. The first fund on the list is the Active UK Equity Fund. As the name suggests, it is an actively managed fund in which UK based stocks are hand selected. The fund holds 102 stocks, has an ongoing charge of 0.45% and a dividend yield of 1.41%. The risk factor of the fund is 6, as it only invests in UK based stocks. The next fund on the list is the FTSE 100 Index Unit Trust. This fund tracks the FTSE 100, which are the 100 largest companies in the UK. The fund is passively managed and it holds 103 stocks. The ongoing charge is the tied lowest on the list at 0.06%. The dividend yield is also a tasty 4.75%. The risk factor of the fund is also 6, due to the UK based concentration. The next fund on the list is the FTSE UK All Share Index Unit Trust. This fund invests in all eligible companies on the UK Stock Exchange. The fund is passively managed and holds 601 stocks. The ongoing charge is also 0.06%, with a dividend yield of 3.37%. The risk factor of the fund is 6, due to the UK based concentration. The final fund in the UK category is the FTSE UK Equity Income Index Fund. The fund invests in UK based companies that are expected to pay a high dividend yield. The fund is passively managed and invests in the lowest number of stocks in the whole list of 59. The ongoing charge is 0.14%. Whilst the dividend yield is the highest on the list at 4.97%. The risk factor of the fund is also 6, due to the UK based concentration. This next category includes index funds which invest in countries from Asia and the Pacific. The first of these is the Japan Stock Index Fund. This fund invests in large and medium-sized companies that are based in Japan. The fund is passively managed and holds 320 stocks. The ongoing charge is 0.16%, whilst the dividend yield is 1.84%. The risk factor of the fund is 6, due to the Japan-based concentration. The second and last index fund in this category is the Pacific Excluding Japan Stock Index Fund. This fund invests in large and medium-sized companies in the Pacific region excluding Japan. The fund is passively managed and holds 135 stocks. The ongoing charge is also 0.16%, whilst the dividend yield is a nice 4.31%. The risk factor of the fund is also 6, due to the Pacific-based concentration. Surprisingly, there is only one US-based index fund which is available in the UK on Vanguard, which is the US Equity Fund Index. However, this is still a well-diversified option for investing in the US markets. This fund holds large, medium, small, and even micro-sized companies that are based in the US. It is a passively managed fund that holds 3,462 stocks. The ongoing charge is a cool 0.1%, whilst the dividend yield is 1.37%. The risk factor of the fund is 6, due to the US-based concentration. And last but not least, the final group of funds are the emerging market index funds. These index funds invest in emerging markets from countries all around the world. The first fund in this group is the Emerging Markets Stock Index Fund. The fund invests in large and medium-sized companies from the emerging markets. The fund is passively managed and holds 1,416 stocks. The ongoing charge is 0.23%, whilst the dividend yield is 2.31%. The risk factor of the fund is 6, as the emerging markets are considered risky due to their uncertainty and small size. The next fund in this group is the ESG Emerging Markets All Cap Equity Index Fund. This index fund invests in large, medium and small sized companies from the emerging markets that are not involved in controversial business sectors. The fund is passively managed and holds 2,212 stocks. The ongoing charge is 0.25%. And the dividend yield has not yet been determined because it is a relatively new fund. The risk factor of the fund is 6, due to the risk of the emerging markets. The final index fund in the list is the Global Emerging Markets Fund. It is a fund that selects stocks that are based in the emerging market countries. The fund is actively managed and holds 159 stocks. The ongoing charge is the highest on the list at 0.78%, whilst the dividend yield is 1.37%. The risk factor of the fund is 6, due to the risk of the emerging markets. And that's it, an overview of all 19 equity index funds that can be purchased from Vanguard in the UK. All of the index funds in this list have advantages and disadvantages, and I hope that this video helped to highlight them. This table shows a summary of all of the equity index funds, which hopefully can help you shortlist the funds that are right for you. Remember to do your own research and put some good thought into deciding which index fund or index funds are right for you. I'll be making a video soon where I rank all of these index funds from worst to best in my own opinion. If you want to see more videos that relate to the investing options that you have when investing with Vanguard in the UK, let me know in the comments. Also, be sure to let me know which of these index funds you invest in yourself. If you want to see more investing based content just like this, make sure to subscribe to the channel. If you found the video useful, be sure to drop a like and share it with a friend so that they can learn about Vanguard's index funds too. And with that, I wish you all a great day. Thanks for watching.